Section 608. Deleted says preface. The manufacture of personal reality. April 5, 1972. Good evening. Now, Robert is quite correct. We are preparing for another one, and giving you a rest in between. The values automatically unite the material, present it within certain frameworks of discipline. This does not mean that other in-between sessions cannot deal with helping others, or with personal material. As you now know, some considerable time is taken with your preparation of notes, and so I have been waiting a while. Robert said this quite clearly, and as usual feels twinges, wondering what I am going to write about, and what kind of a book it will be. Such a book can be given quite normally, and quietly along with your regular routine of sessions, adding to your own knowledge, and ultimately helping others also. I suggest the simplest of formats, always the least complicated, as far as any mechanics are concerned. Do you follow me? Rob said, yes. Say said, most probably this time we will work in concentrated periods that can be broken by rests when you prefer it, or circumstances seem to call for it. Now, in the meantime, there are a few points I would like to make that have not been given in this particular manner. Connections that are important between the nature of matter, your perception of it, and the reincarnational existence. As you know, the mind forms matter. The physical brain only perceives the appearance of matter in one of its many manifestations. There are many gradations of matter, therefore, as I have told you. Now, the inner self is the primary personal creator and perceiver, the seat of identity, a consciousness then with many phases. Each portion of the inner self creates its own reality and perceives the structure of matter to which it is attuned. It creates then the times, the events, and the places. These exist all at once. But the perceiving mechanisms are turned into one characteristic channel, so to speak. While you are creating the physical reality and time that you know, other portions of the self are therefore creating their own times and places. All of this must be understood along with the nature of physical matter to begin with. Otherwise, it is impossible to understand how, for example, an 18th century town, a 20th century town, and an ancient village can all exist not merely at once, but also on occasion in the same, location. The subject of matter then becomes one of correlating inner data with outward experience and appearance. The inner core of the self has no difficulty in uniting and correlating the outward experience of its many personalities. But the subject of reincarnation cannot be understood without a knowledge of the nature of matter. Often in the dream state and occasionally in the waking state, a personality will glimpse what seems to be a past personal event. When this occurs, the perceptions have already altered it, so that it is very difficult to perceive at the same time the present physical location and the past one. Usually, the perceptions glide to one or the other. that one becomes shadowy or indistinct as the other becomes stronger and appears three-dimensionally. It would be impossible to proceed physically if the other simultaneous events had to be handled by one ego. These, in course, divisions of the self simply enable it to multiply its experience. Think of the subconscious now merely as an academic psychologist might, as that inner portion of the self who is concerned with physical survival. Bodily mechanisms who hold memories too numerous for the conscious mind to follow. Now, if all of those functions must be beneath present consciousness, you can see that no single ego consciousness could easily grapple with several environments, times, or life experiences. Instead, this is carried on by the core inner self. As the personal subconscious that you know maintains your familiar physical image, so does the core inner self beneath give this personal subconscious the power and the ability. It does the same with other portions of the self that look out toward other times and places. If you identify yourself with this inner core identity, then you realize that you form other physical images of yourself besides the tile image that you know. Reincarnation, so-called, cannot adequately be considered then as a phenomenon apart from the nature of personality either, for it is a direct result of the inner self's attempt to project its personality characteristics outward into a world of physical actuality. The idea of a time sequence is a psychological method of separating such experience for practical purposes at a given level of development. The idea of time sequence is intimately connected, again, with the structure of physical matter as you perceive it, a way of separating and correlating experience so that it can be physically processed and correlated. The brain, as opposed to the mind, needs this correlation. In the framework of three-dimensional reality, in which reincarnation exists, the structure of the body itself requires, in course, time lapses. Messages do not leap instantaneously through the nervous system. The mind exists independently of the brain, but with connections to it. It can perceive without time lapses. The physical body exists within an electromagnetic order. There are points of correlation between the two of which the conscious brain is not aware, and perceptions that do not consciously register. In the same way that all individuals can know what is happening in another place without any physical communication, so he can know about his other reincarnational existences. Now, take your break. Now, I want to maintain the framework of our sessions even while I give you a mini vacation before our next main project. Therefore, I will not keep you long. Robert is psychically working out some of his concerns over reincarnation in his novel, coming to grips with the subject creatively and in ways that have deep meaning, not only for himself, but for others. Oversoul 7 and Cyprus do exist, though in different terms than he may imagine them, and the whole episode allows him to work creatively with fiction, and creatively with his psychic abilities. The book is a way of teaching through parable. He teaches himself as he teaches others, and of course, in the writing of the book, he is also being taught. I am not going to say more about our next project this evening, simply that it is in preparation Do you have any questions? Joseph. Ralph said, No, I guess not. Seth said, Then, I bid you a fond good evening. You submarine, you. Ralph said, The same to you, Seth. Seth said, Try sketching sometime with your left hand also. The results might be surprising. Ralph said, I thought I would, yes. Good night, Seth, and thank you.